Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can I have your attention? It's 5 o'clock now, 5:01, and we will begin our Committee of Adjustment meeting for the month of August. Everyone's information, we generally deal with each application according to the order of the agenda. Extra copies are available somewhere over there. Anyone present who wishes to speak in support or against an application, as well as anyone with any questions, will have an opportunity to speak. The committee will make their decision following each application. If there's anyone present who is not an applicant or an agent but is interested in the decision of the committee, you may file your interest with the Secretary Treasurer. Please list the file number, your full name, and mailing address. Copies of the decisions are automatically sent to the applicant and agent within 15 days of the meeting. Only the applicant, the minister, a specified person, or any public body may appeal decisions in respect to applications for consent or minor variances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The decisions are final if there are no appeals 20 days after the committee's decision. May I remind everyone that we're being recorded. To mute your devices, as well as if you wish to speak to an application, make your way to the podium. State your name for the public record, ensure the mic is on, and you will have 5 minutes. The first order of business is to determine whether any members have any disclosures of interest when considering the applications. Are there any disclosures? Joe? 510. Item 510 for Joe. Anybody else? Okay. Have all the members received the minutes of the previous meeting? Are there any errors or omissions? If not, I need a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes. Phil? And Chris? Okay. First application. Oh, before we start, we have 3 items that were automatically deferred or withdrawn. BNPL 2026-099, 2026-166 were both deferred. BNPL 2026-156 was withdrawn. So we'll move on. And the first application is ANPL 2026-101, and the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair to committee, an application has been received to seek relief of 3 meters from the maximum permitted height of 5 meters to permit a height of 8 meters, and 7% from the maximum permitted lot coverage of 10% to permit a coverage of 17%, and 70 square meters from the maximum permitted floor area of 55 square meters to permit a usable floor area of 125 square meters for an accessory building in the residential 2 R2 zone. The subject lands are located at 157 William Street in Delhi. The area of the subject lands is approximately 783 square meters, with approximately 18.70 meters on the north side of William Street. The subject lands are occupied by a single detached dwelling and a detached garage that is to be demolished. Surrounding land uses are mostly residential. Given the above, it is the professional opinion of the planning staff that this proposal meets the 4 tests of a minor variance, and this proposal is recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the committee? Is there an agent or applicant present? Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? If not, I have a recommendation for approval. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Joe? Phil? ANPL 2026-101, all in favor? That's carried. Next up is BNPL 2026-068. The planner can give the report, please.
Okay, before I start this one, there was public comments submitted. I believe the committee was circulated on these comments this morning. So just to put that on the record. An application has been received to sever a parcel having a frontage of 21.64 meters, a width of 21.64 meters, a depth of 39 meters, and a total area of 843.96 square meters, and a retained parcel having an area of 2,312.51 square meters as the creation of a lot in the Hamlet Commercial Zone. The subject lands are located at 2590 Norfolk County Road 23 at the intersection of Norfolk County Road 21. The area of the severed lands is approximately 843.96. The retained parcel has an area of approximately 2,312.51 square meters. The severed lands are occupied by an existing commercial building. The retained lands contain a commercial building with an attached dwelling and 3 sheds. The surrounding land uses are predominantly residential. A hydrogeological study will be required to ensure that the severed lot is of adequate size for private services. The retained parcel contains a well. A new well will be required on the severed lands. A minor variance application will be required to rectify the lot area and frontage deficiencies of the severed parcel. The area of the proposed severed parcel is approximately 843.96 square meters, where 1,860 square meters is the minimum required lot area. The proposed severed parcel would have a frontage of 21.46 meters, where 30 meters is the minimum requirement for frontage. Given the above, it is the professional opinion of the planning staff that this proposal meets the Planning Act, the provincial planning statement, conforms to the official plan, and meets the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. This proposal is recommended for approval with the attached conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Is there an agent or applicant present?
We're here, us three.
Anything to add?
No.
Nothing to add, they indicate. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? Okay. We have a motion or a recommendation for approval. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Joe? Linda? BNPL 2026-068, all in favor? It's carried. BNPL 2026-110. The planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received to sever a parcel having a frontage of 12.1 meters, a width of 12.19 meters, and a depth of 14.69 meters, with a total lot area of 178.4 square meters in the Central Business District Zone, and retain a parcel having an area of 235.5 square meters in the CBD Zone. The subject lands are located at 69 Robinson Street and 12 Colburn Street North at the intersection of Robinson Street and Colburn Street in the town of Simcoe. The area of the subject lands is approximately 486 square meters, with approximately 12.1 meters of frontage on the north side of Robinson Street. The subject lands are occupied by 2 commercial buildings, with one building having frontage along Robinson Street and another building having frontage along Colburn Street North. The subject lands were previously 2 separate parcels, however, they were merged on title. The subject application seeks to unmerge the parcels. The proposal is consistent with the Planning Act, PPS 2024, conforms with the official plan, and complies to the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Given this, the proposal is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Is there a agent or applicant? Anything to add? Nothing to add. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? No? Have a recommendation for approval? Mover, seconder, Linda, Lisa. All in favor? Thank you. Carries. ANPL 2026-107, and the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received seeking relief of 10 meters from the required front yard setback of 13 meters to permit a front yard setback of 3 meters for an accessory building in the agricultural zone. The subject lands are located at 1589 Thompson Road East between Villanova Road and County Line in the geographic township of Townsend. The area of the subject lands is approximately .46 hectares with approximately 67 meters of frontage on the north side of Thompson Road East. Subject lands are occupied by a single detached dwelling, pool, and accessory buildings. The proposed garage would be deficient in the required front yard setback, requesting relief of 10 meters from the required front yard setback of 13 meters to permit a front yard setback of 3 meters in the A zone. Although an accessory building is permitted within a front yard in the A zone, it is not permitted within the required front yard setback. In this case, the proposed garage is located well within the required front yard setback. The intent of the front yard setback for accessory buildings is to promote and maintain street appearances, safety between buildings and the roadway, and ensure that the accessory building remains accessory to the primary use of the property. In this case, the single detached dwelling on the property is considered to be the primary use. The dwelling is located at adequate distance from the front property line and maintains the zoning bylaw provision. However, the construction of the proposed garage with a proposed 3-meter setback from the front property line would not have the appearance of being secondary or accessory to the main use. The proposed garage could cause a disruption to the overall street appearance and character of the area by being located significantly closer to the road than the main dwelling. The garage is also proposed to be located atop a steep front ditch in close proximity to existing above-ground electrical conductors, as noted by the building department. Overall, it is the professional opinion of planning staff that the proposal does not comply to the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, is not considered to be desirable for the appropriate development of the lands, and is not considered to be minor, and therefore does not meet the 4 tests of a minor variance. This proposal is recommended for refusal.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the committee? Is there an agent or applicant present? Yes, do you have anything to add? I'm sorry?
Yes, please.
Up to the podium, please. State your name.
That's on. Afternoon. My name is AJ Van Berlo, acting agent on behalf of Darren and Amy Vandertooen. Yes, seeking relief of 10 meters from the required front yard setback of 13 meters to permit a front yard setback of 3 meters for a proposed accessory building. I just wanted the opportunity to explain the circumstances of the property before a decision is made. The intent is not to circumvent the zoning requirements, but rather to find the most practical location for the proposed building while working within the unique constraints of their property. The property is somewhat unusual in that the existing home, driveway, well, septic system, and tile bed and pool are all situated in a way that significantly limits the suitable locations for an accessory building. The proposed location provides the most practical access. It allows us to come directly off the existing driveway and straight into the new building without requiring an additional driveway or entrance. If the building were moved further back in line with the home, it would begin to conflict with the existing well, septic system, and tile bed. To avoid these services, the building would likely have to be moved into the far northwest portion of the property. That location would create additional difficulties in accessing the building and extending services to it, while also having to work around the existing well, septic, and tile bed, and of course the pool area. We understand that the request relief may initially appear to place the accessory building quite close to the road. However, another unique circumstance or characteristic, of this property is its elevation relative to Thompson Road. The property sits considerably higher than the roadway, and even with the proposed setback, the building would still be approximately 12 meters from the edge of the road. There are also a number of properties just to the west within the hamlet of Villanova where existing homes are approximately 8 meters or less from the road. For that reason, we do not believe the proposed location will be out of character with the surrounding area. We also do not anticipate the proposed location having any negative impact on neighboring properties. It will not create any additional traffic or require a new entrance. We do not expect it to create concerns with drainage, sight lines, or privacy. There will be no secondary entrance created from Thompson Road. Access of the accessory building will remain entirely from the existing driveway. Ultimately, we believe the location provides the best balance between accessibility, the existing services and features on the property, and minimizing any impact on the surrounding area. Given the unique characteristics of the property, we feel the requested variance is reasonable and will allow the property to be used appropriately without negatively affecting neighboring properties or the character of the area. We respectfully ask the committee to consider these site-specific circumstances and approve the request minor variance. I appreciate your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Oh, okay, Joe, question? Turn the mic on.
The proposed location, is that the minimum setback from the septic bed? Like,
It's close to, so
close to as in
within
5 meters, 2 meters?
within a couple meters, yes.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Any questions? Okay, okay, thanks. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? Hearing none, we have a recommendation for refusal. Can I get that motion or an alternative? Linda?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, Councillor Van Passen?
Yeah, I will second that motion to approve it. I went out and looked at it and came to the same conclusion that the agent did, that it's not out of place. The fact that it's up on that hill actually makes it look, I think it's going to look nice up there, not look bad. And yeah,
That's what we like to hear.
Villanova's half kilometer down the road, and I think there's actually some houses there that are encroaching on the road allowance. But so I think it does meet the four tests of a minor variance, and be happy to support the motion to approve it.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. ANPL 2026-107, motion to approve. All in favor? Against? Okay. And that's carried. Okay, next up is BNPL 2026-043. Gary, and the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. An application has been received to sever a parcel of land having a frontage of 40.51 meters, a depth of 49.28 meters, and an area of approximately 1,977 square meters, and a retained parcel with an area of approximately 27,113.5 square meters in the hamlet of Walsingham. The subject lands are located at 2063 Main Street in Walsingham. The proposed severed land contains a dwelling unit, well, septic, and weeping bed. The severed lands contain a shop, various buildings, which are utilized for personal storage, with the remaining being vacant. It's planning staff's opinion that this proposal be recommended for refusal. The application is consistent with the Planning Act, but is not consistent with the provincial planning statement, does not conform to the policies of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The consent application proposes to sever the industrial buildings associated with the former Family Construction Muscle Trucking Limited from the existing residential dwellings of the subject property. The industrial operation coexisted as an owner-operated lot with an on-site residential dwelling in the hamlet residential zone for many years. The consent application proposes to create a separate and saleable lot with a principal residential land use in the hamlet residential zone. The proposed interface between the principal industrial parcel and the newly created residential lot has the potential to introduce incompatible land uses and potential adverse impacts for future purchasers. The land use compatibility has not been adequately assessed with the submission of supporting technical studies, including a planning justification report, a land use compatibility component, and/or a separate land use compatibility study, Phase 1 environmental assessment at minimum, and a hydrogeological study. The existing purpose-built industrial buildings with large bay doors currently being used by the owner for personal storage. However, staff notes that personal storage is not a defined use under the zoning bylaw and would be considered ancillary to a permitted primary use. Further, the subject lands would require a rezoning with a zoning bylaw amendment to address the site-specific requirements of the proposal and of the current agricultural zoning on the portion of the lands. Therefore, planning staff is recommending refusal of the severance application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Is there an agent or applicant present? Yes, sir. Anything to add? Looks like you do.
Answer any questions you may have.
Turn the mic on the right button and state your name.
Gary Mussel.
Okay.
I applied for this back in February. I was brought before your committee or your planning department. I was told the way to do it. I went through the whole process. I had a planning thing coming before you on May 20th, I believe it is. I have all of it here if you want to know exactly. And at the time of it, I was called in by the planning department again, and one of the planners told me not to do it the way it was supposed to be, or not the way the other person had told me, to switch it over and do the house only, which I wanted to do in the first place. Everything was a go until I found out Monday morning that the planning department had changed their mind, changed everything totally. None of this stuff that we're hearing right now was ever brought to me. Never once, because from the day I walked into that planning department, I said, what do I need to do? You're the expert. I'm just a guy I lost my wife. I want to sell my house and move on. They told me what to do. I followed every step. When the person said, you need a survey, I run and got a survey. That survey's no good no more, we need another one. I went and got a survey. I brought it back. You need a tile bed inspection. I went and got a tile bed inspection. I followed every procedure your planning department told me. Not once did they mention any of the stuff you're bringing up tonight.
Okay. I'll ask planning
And the
staff.
simple thing of it is, I have a house, 3 buildings. 5 or 6 years ago, before my wife passed, we ended up taking the trucking business, closing it down. We knew that things were going to change. I have another yard down the road where most of the trucks have been for the last 15 years. This place was never industrial. I keep hearing that word, industrial. Yeah. Never. It was never commercial. Only thing was ever done in 2020 something. I forget the date exactly. I have it in here if you want to know. I can look it up. But I had to put a special Pacific site thing for a contractor's yard. Cost me about $5,000 to get it put on. Then when I quit the business, I had to remove it. Cost me another $6,000 to remove it. I've got it removed. I'm back to residential land. I'm using it as a house and 3 shops. I got some cars. I got my tractors. I got some discs. I got a little bit of everything in all my buildings. All I want to do is severance my house off,
Right.
which is in the hamlet, and sell it, keep the remaining land.
Okay.
The land's not going to change a bit that's remaining.
I'm going to ask planning staff to respond.
Through the chair. So it is, to my knowledge, that there is a history on this site. I have kind of come into the review of the application. As you can see by the report, what is being raised here comes down to being able to evaluate the technical feasibility. At the end of the day, the consent application is introducing a future residential lot that would be a standalone lot. And then the proposal would be for an additional lot with the land use to be determined. It is our understanding that it's being used for personal storage at this time. However, it was used as a trucking operation in the past. There are large industrial buildings that are located on the subject property. Looking through the policy framework, there is the possibility and potential for incompatibility between those land uses, and the policy framework speaks to that. So, as I mentioned, this comes down to the technical evaluation, and ultimately it will be the findings and recommendations of the studies that would allow planners to look at that recommendation as it sits now. It is a recommendation for refusal, but as we've mentioned, there would be a zoning bylaw amendment that would be required. And as we mentioned, there's other technical studies to make sure that there's potable water for the proposed residential lot. That would be through the hydrogeological study that is required, and to make sure that there's no contaminants that may have leached onto the property, and what that means for the quality of water to be at a potable standard.
Okay, thank you.
Can I answer to that?
Yep.
First of all, there is no industrial buildings.
Well,
The buildings were used for trucks, I agree, years ago. I've been living there since 1987. It was a farm when I bought it. I bought 6 acres of farmland. I built a house and a shop, and then I put on accessories. I've followed every rule there was all the way
Okay.
to now. There has been no contamination. I've been the one that's took care of my yard. It's my yard. I live in the house beside it. The well is there. I drink the water every day. I certainly don't look like I'm dying. I hope not anyway. You know, so I mean, all you're going to do is more cost, and this has been going on since February. Nobody said a word, one word about don't do this. It was when I walked in to meet the planners, I said, what do I have to do? And no one ever said anything about a study. No one. All you got to do, Gary, is this: pay the money, pay the money, pay the money. I've had 2 severances because of each one changing. Do you guys not have the same rules? One tells you to do it this way, the other one tells me to change it and do it that way. Please, somebody help me in the guidance here. Like, what can I tell you
okay,
to
let
do?
me see if the committee has any questions. Linda?
I just have a question for planning staff. Why would the special provision be required to be removed just because he closed the business?
Through the chair, I can't speak to the removal of this special provision. As it stands right now, we have current zoning in place. And if this was done with a new zoning bylaw and the previous provision no longer was pulled forward, that's a question. We can look into the history of this. I do feel that there is a path forward here. And we do want to help you get there, and I apologize for any history. Again, I've come into this late. I've started with the county more recently, and I have been now involved with this file and reviewing it. I do want to help you get there. When we look at the policy framework and what planning staff is looking at, that is what's shaping that recommendation and the request for those technical studies. Those are provincial requirements, and so as it funnels down through our planning instruments like the official plan, through the zoning bylaw, we have to comment on those, and the idea is to ensure that there is safety to the public health, and to make sure that if we allowed for a consent application and a recommendation of approval, that that lot can sustain itself. And that's why we're talking about the potable water, et cetera, and to make sure that there's no conflict between the surrounding land use and the proposed sensitive land use.
Well, they're not. They're both residential.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And as far as the part that's bothering me is, she's telling me now she's new into this, but I'm telling you, I've met 3 other planners that have told me 3 different ways. Do you not all go to the same school
Okay, I'm
for
going
planning?
to ask the committee member to continue. Linda?
Okay, so I'm looking at the map, the zoning map that's attached to the report, and it's showing 33-Z-2022. I'm assuming that's the special provision that permits the contractor yard, although it wasn't identified in the report that I can recall. So it's still on the property, is that correct?
Through the chair, we would have to look at the details. I understand we're hearing it's been removed, et cetera. If there's a new zoning bylaw that came into effect, that previous zoning, if I believe that it was for 195 square meters to recognize an existing building, one building on the subject property, to allow for and permit the contractor's yard.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, sorry, Linda, go ahead.
So if it's permitting the contractor's yard and the severance is approved, the remaining property is still permitted to operate as a contractor's yard, is that correct?
So this is going to be probably a lengthy answer, but there are a lot of details into that, because now you have sort of the ceasing of an operation. In planning, we have to look at all of those things. How long has the business been ceased? What has gone in after that use? And so there are all these details we would look into, and again, following the history of the site specific. But that is to recognize one building on the subject property. So the Hamlet residential, just to give kind of an overview, did allow for home industry, which was, part and parcel with the residential. It was sort of accessory to, ancillary to, and it allowed you to live in the dwelling and then operate a small sort of business enterprise. And so that is a permission that's there. But what has come into play right now is the consent application. And the consent application is a new Planning Act application, and we have to review it for conformity with the planning framework. And that's where it actually changes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Am I correct in assuming that zoning goes with the land?
Through the chair, the lands are zoned. So we do have zoning, so that's why we've kind of included that in here. But it sounds as though we're discussing sort of past site specific for the one building on the subject lands.
Okay. More, Linda?
Well, the zoning appears to be in place,
Okay.
and I don't consider it passed, it's there. So
Okay.
that's just my opinion and interpretation. And just a comment too, that if this applicant is just hearing about these issues on Monday, if that's correct, that I question the customer service in that application.
Okay. Councillor Van Passen.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this is a bit of a complicated property, but, you know, I've lived around here a long time, and it's always been a contractor's yard for as long as I can remember, so like something to do with legal non-conforming that I don't know why we'd have to change that, but, and it did have, I looked at my old maps, it did have one of the Section 14 things that's what allowed the contractor's yard. Whether that's still valid or not, or whether that's the one that got pulled, I don't know. But my question is how do
Wondering where there was.
how do we resolve this? Part of the property is zoned as agricultural. Part of it is zoned as hamlet residential. The hamlet residential, somebody arbitrarily drew a line on a map at some point in our official plans and our zoning bylaws and just drew the line. There's no studies, no backgrounds, no anything, just here's the line where it is. They probably didn't even ask the owners whether they wanted it there. But is it possible to just move the line between the hamlet residential and agriculture? Because if the property's owned agriculture, it can have those buildings on it as they are, don't need anything beyond that. So is it possible to approve the severance application and put in a condition that you move the line and include the buildings as part of the agricultural land, which it probably was at some point, or when it was purchased, it was that way. Is that a possible option here?
Through the chair. So when it comes down to the hamlet boundary, our policies are clear that they are fixed. It's considered settlement area. So that is more complicated, but there are, and I've said this, I think there is a path forward. It's about sitting down and kind of understanding what it is that we're looking to get to. And does that mean we do have the situation where we have a designation that is hamlet and we have some agricultural zoning, so we would look to remedy that as well. But there are a number of moving pieces to this application, and it hasn't been straightforward, but we do want to make sure we can get to a good place.
Okay, I see, I don't see that many moving pieces. There's a house there. If it's severed and you sell it to somebody and they buy a house that is next door to a contractor's yard, don't come to me later and complain because there's trucks driving in at 6 o'clock in the morning because I bought a house next to a contractor's yard. You can't put the blame to somebody else after the fact. So, and they live there, the water, the sewer, it's there, it's been checked. Why do we have to do a hydrologic study to see if that water is actually there or not? I can't understand why we would need that. We moved the line that was arbitrarily put there in 2014 when we did our zoning bylaw. They just put the line there. Now it's included as a hamlet, and that's fixed now because that was approved in 2014. That doesn't mean it's right. That just means that's where they put it in 2014, and that's where they drew the line on the map. So let's just move that line to only be around where the new severed parcel is going to be and leave the rest agriculture like it used to be, and all the problems are gone. We don't need any studies for that. We don't need anything beyond an eraser and a new pen. So like, why are we making it more complicated than we have to?
Is there, okay, there's the question. Carry on.
I wish I could answer that to understand why it is as complicated as we're saying it is. This is provincial policy, and so it trickles down into our OP, it trickles down into our zoning. So we do have to review it. We do have to work within the framework. That is where planning sits, is we review it, we provide the comments. What we can do to work through that is make sure that we can mitigate any conflict or compatibility issues, and that would come out in the studies. So ultimately what we're saying here is if we want to move forward, it is about doing the technical studies to get there. And if there's another option, then we can definitely look at that. But the application itself was for this proposal. So I think there's opportunity to have conversation around options and then figure it out.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go down to the end of the table to Adam first.
Thanks, Chair. Through you to Morgan there. So you've mentioned, I think, at least three times that there's a path forward. I'd like to hear more about that, and specifically, if you could give us a sense of what the timeline's going to be for Gary or Mr. Mossel, whichever you prefer, and also what other costs are we going to have to ask him to sink into this? Because if he's already got costs into it, I'm a bit concerned about a way forward that's going to keep piling that on. So maybe you can say that, maybe you can't, I don't know. But those are my concerns here, because, yeah, we can workshop it at the table all night, and we're still going to get probably the same answer, which is fair enough, that it's policy, we have to sort it out. I get all that. So what is the way forward?
Through the chair, I think the way forward is trying to maybe get down into what it is that we want to see out of this. As we mentioned, the buildings are being used for personal storage right now. We don't have a definition for personal storage. Is that the intended use? Is there some other intended use? What can we do to kind of work with? Because studies will be dependent on what the uses are. So, as I'm saying, we're looking at the technical studies, but the question becomes, if the use changes, if we're looking at it from a different perspective, are those studies still required? So when we start talking about costs and time, et cetera, some of this has to do with what applications we need, what studies we need.
Like, that's not good. Oh, there, it's red now. So, understood. I suppose my question then still is, what are we talking about for time? I mean, if Gary's been trying to do this since, you said February?
February.
Are we talking another year from today, or can we get him in for a meeting next week and start on this? Like, that's where I'm trying to narrow this down, because if this is a deferral or a referral or whatever, and we can avoid the refusal so he doesn't start all over again, that's a different conversation. So let's have that conversation. Like, how do we get this to where it needs to be as per what you're suggesting?
Through the chair, I think the starting point is a pre-consultation meeting to sit down, and we can get him on the schedule for pre-consultation, get out all the departments involved, and so that they can comment on the application. We can kind of work through it, negotiate through what it is that he's looking to do and how we can get there, what study would be required, et cetera.
Okay. One more, and then I got
I'm
to move on to
Okay,
Peter.
I understand. I
Peter's
want
on the line,
clarification.
too,
Do we
so-
have to reject this today, refuse it today, or can we do a deferral or a referral and stop him from having to start over again? Can we work with what's here, or is it the only option a wash where it's going to cost them all that money all over again? That's what I'm trying to get at.
So if this is something that we are looking to defer, and that's up to the committee, so that a pre-consultation meeting could be scheduled and conversation could take place with all the relevant departments, then perhaps the deferral is the way to go. As it stands right now, in the absence of the technical studies, staff's position remains a refusal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to go to Peter quickly. Peter? Is he not on?
Who's Peter?
No, he's one of our members, but he's online.
Oh, sorry.
Okay? Peter? Good. Okay, Linda.
So, question for planning staff: if a zoning bylaw amendment application would allow to have that boundary moved for the hamlet boundary? Is that the process of zoning bylaw amendment?
So the zoning bylaw amendment would be for the use, establishing what the use is and then what studies would be required. That would be for the zoning bylaw amendment.
Would you not apply for a zoning bylaw amendment to change the zoning on it as well? So it's entirely agricultural rather than hamlet?
So we would have to look at the OP designation, and if it's hamlet, then that is sort of the issue. So we're looking at kind of tiered policy documents. What is the designation, and then do those policies support what the proposed zoning is?
So an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment would be required to change that. Is that correct?
So I can't answer that question right now without going into the details of the policy to see what we're looking at, but partly the designation is hamlet, and the agricultural zone is actually, there's a rounded sort of portion of agricultural zoned lands in the hamlet designation.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to go to Peter now. It's back online. Go ahead, Peter. You're muted. Peter, you need to turn your microphone up louder. Now you're on mute. We can't hear you. Okay, try now. No. Okay, well, you can type in the question in the chat if you like, or else we can just move on.
Talking to me or Peter?
I'm talking to this Peter over your shoulder. I'll give it just a minute and see what he comes up with. In the meantime, yeah, Joe has a question.
So when we're talking about zoning changes, we need a justification report to understand what the land use is going to be, to understand what amendments are required, an OP amendment or just a zoning amendment. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yeah, so ultimately the planning justification report is going to support whatever application is being brought forward. So if it's a zoning bylaw amendment, it would speak to that what that proposed use is and have a rationale. And whatever technical studies are required, they could come separately. Some of them could form a portion of the planning justification report, but we would kind of work through what those are and try to scope them accordingly, and just to make sure that it's a very kind of clear and smooth process.
Okay, thank you. Okay, one more, and then we're gonna.
Sorry. So understanding what the usages are going to be are going to help you scope on what studies are going to be required, correct? Yes. Okay.
That's it? That's not a question, really? Linda?
When you're ready to call for a recommendation.
Okay, Councillor Van Passen, just,
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. One of the other things I don't get in this report, that half a dozen times it talks about the buildings are being used for storage of personal items. I don't know what bearing that has on it, like their barns are full of stuff. If you sell the place and move, you're going to take your stuff with you. So whether we have a definition in our zoning bylaw of specifically a building to store personal items, I think that's sort of like a red herring in the whole report, and gets brought up so many times. But we're dealing with a bunch of barns on what should be agricultural land, and there happens to be stuff in it right now that's probably going to get moved out of there when they're done looking after the buildings, right? So why bring that up as an important point when it's got nothing to do with the planning issue involved? I don't understand that.
That's the question?
Yeah, like why is it so important that there's personal items in a barn on a piece of land in Norfolk County? Like, I've got some stuff in my barn too.
Okay. Let's have the planning staff briefly comment, and then we'll continue on. We'll get to you.
Through the chair. So oftentimes you have a house and you have other accessory buildings, and you may use those accessory buildings to store personal items, and that would be fine. In this case, what's being proposed is a severance of the dwelling from those buildings. So now they would be standalone buildings. So we would have to know what the use is. And personal storage is understood to be accessory or ancillary to a use. So the property can be bought and sold, and those buildings would be there. So the idea being, what is the use of those buildings? So planning's looking at it not as what is the activity of storing personal items, but what is the use? And as long as it's accessory to the dwelling, which is a residential use, then it's fine. You're using the buildings to store, you know, household products or whatever the case may be. It's when you are coming in with an application to sever, to create a standalone residential lot, and then a separate lot that has the buildings.
The whole crux of the situation, right now everything is legal because you have a dwelling unit and you have accessory buildings with the dwelling unit. If you were to sever the dwelling unit off, the rules say you can't establish the accessory uses until the primary use is there. So you can't have a standalone garage on a property unless you build the house first in a hamlet residential zone. But you are allowed to do that in a hamlet commercial zone or an agricultural zone. You can have a agricultural land and just build a barn. You don't need the house there first. But by severing this house off of here, now you have accessory buildings without the primary in place. So again, the simple solution is just move the line and extend it as agricultural land, or you could apply, maybe that's a good option too, apply to rezone the retained portion into hamlet commercial. That would work as well. You are allowed to establish the accessory use without the primary. So either one of those options. So again, why can't we approve it conditional on a rezoning being done? You've got 2 years to get the separate paperwork done. In that time, you go and apply to rezone it into either the hamlet commercial or move the agricultural boundary. Why can't we do that?
Through the chair. So part of the issue, as we've kind of talked about, is it's hamlet residential. So if we were looking to rezone it for commercial or whatever the use, it would be a rezoning application. So that's what we're saying. There are options, but we have to kind of sit down and suss out what it is going to be and what you want to do with it, so that we can then determine what applications and then corresponding studies you would require.
Time we approve it conditional on the appropriate zoning application, the appropriate minor variant, whatever the case may be, and that becomes a condition. You can't get the final paperwork done on the severance till you get that other part of the puzzle done. So why couldn't we approve the severance tonight with adding a condition that the required zoning amendment be obtained?
I'm just going to step in. I think she's answered that a couple of times in a couple of different ways, and we'll just leave it at that. And okay, let's move along. Peter typed in his comments and questions, and I'll make a note of that, but I just want to continue on with her. I'll give Mr. Mussel briefly one more stab at it.
Okay, one more thing. First of all, like I said, it's been 7 months.
Okay.
Why has none of this been brought up for 7 months? When they said go get a severance, I went and got it. I've told you that. And I was in there saying, what do I do? What do you want me to do? It wasn't what I was wanting to do. What do you want? 3 different planners. Now we have a new lady that apparently just came here, and the whole world changed Monday morning. What happened?
Okay, that's
what happened to everything's perfect, Gary. Don't worry about it. Don't even have to show up if you don't want to.
Okay, we'll take a note of that. I got to go through the whole procedure.
It's just
here.
a severance of a house that I don't want to live in anymore. It's on a residential lot. The remaining can go back to farmland. If you tell me you want cows put in those buildings, I'll go get some
Okay,
cows.
we got that. Okay,
I'm easy to get along
I'm
with.
going to continue on and ask the general audience if there's anyone here that wishes to speak to this application. No? Peter online has made a motion for a deferral. If the committee is acceptable to that. Councillor Very? You second it? Okay. So we have a motion for deferral. All in favor? 1, 2, 3. Peter? That's 4. Against? 1, 2, 3. Councillor Van Passen? You're in favor or against? Against. Okay, so that's a tie. It loses on a tie. Now what? Make a new motion. Linda?
I'll make a motion that we approve it with the removal of the hydrogeological study, given that he's already living in the house, or the house has water and sewer existing, and conditional upon approval of an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment if required, because I feel like it's still zoned as a contractor's yard and he may not require that.
Okay, a seconder? Councillor Van Passen? Councillor Very?
Thanks. I just want to clarify before you call the vote, is that legal to do that? Like, are we creating like if it's legal, fine, but it sounds like there might be some Planning Act issues here.
Through the chair, could you clarify?
Well, so is this motion going to create legal issues? I'm not trying to stop you from getting your thing approved. I just want to make sure you don't have a problem later. Is doing what is on the floor, is that something we can legally do?
Through the chair, I can't speak to legally. What I can say from a planning perspective is planning staff has gone through the planning policy framework, and they have determined, based on that framework, whether this is an application that is consistent with the PPS, conforms to the OP and the zoning bylaw. And if working through that policy framework we arrive at no, then we recommend refusal. We did include a host of different conditions should you want to understand sort of what that may look like. But ultimately, we've gone through the policy framework and said that it's not in alignment. And so it's the committee, you can assess that and make your determination, but ultimately these would be the studies that would be required as per provincial requirements, and that is set out, and we've kind of laid that out in the report.
Okay.
The condition of approval of a official plan and zoning bylaw amendment would fix that to make it compliant. Is that not correct?
So staff in the report has looked at the requirement for a zoning bylaw amendment and what that may look like, but we've said, you know, that will come down to sort of the site-specific requirements and working through what that proposed use is. As for the official plan amendment, that would only be required if, you know, it got to that level, but depending on what's being proposed right now, staff was comfortable with the zoning bylaw amendment based on what we have before us. So ultimately, all of that information is there and in the report. It's before you to make a decision. But again, staff, based on the review and in the absence of the technical studies, can't conclude that it is in conformity.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to approve with some conditions. Moved by Linda, seconded by Councillor Van Passen. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Peter? What's Peter doing? He's against. What's that? He's a no, okay. So 4, and against? 1, 2, 3, 4. Loses on a tie again. Counselor Berry.
So I have, sorry, another question for Morgan, because I didn't, if you said it, I apologize. What's the timeline on getting Gary in, getting a meeting done? Like, do we have enough time to get, if he'll agree to give it a month on a deferral, can we get him back in September? With your meetings and everything else, is that doable, or are we gonna be putting him off for another 6 months? 8 months, 10 years, whatever it is?
Well, maybe I can help you answer that, but usually the September calendar's pretty much set by now, so you'd probably be looking at October at the earliest. Am I sort of
Okay,
correct?
well, okay.
That's sort of correct.
Okay, fine. I'm gonna ask Gary in a minute if the timeline that Morgan gives us is acceptable. That's what where I'm kind of going. So pick a
Okay.
timeline, but when's the earliest we can get this back in front of the committee for a final decision? If we were to go to a deferral, if that's something that Gary requests us to do, how much time do you need to get this done?
Through the chair, I will defer to Olivia for a moment just to see if this is, Olivia, as you schedule the pre-consultations, is this something that we could get Mr. Mussel in for on the next pre-consultation agenda?
We've got too many microphones on. Mr. Mussel, would you mind turning your microphone off, please? Okay. Olivia?
Through the chair, for pre-consultation meetings, the next available date would be Wednesday, September 2nd, I believe. Oh, no, sorry. 1 second. Let me just double check my calendar. We are booking into September for pre-consultation meetings, so I just want to confirm the exact date. So Wednesday, September 9th would be the earliest time that we would have available, and it would be at 1:30 p.m.
Okay, so if I'm going to continue, because chair's not paying attention. So I'm going to sneak one in on him. So we meet September 9th. Not we, you, we all meet September 9th. We do what we got to do. Based on the requirements and the ideas that you have of fixing this, is this something that, again, once he's met and we come to an agreement, can we get this back by October? Or is this, again, going to be something that he's got to do a bunch of stuff, and whatever the studies are, is it going to be 6 months? Is it like, you got to give me a sense of this so we can move this forward, because we're deadlocked at 2 failed votes. So what are we doing?
I see a way out.
So do I, so I'm trying to get there.
Through the chair, we, staff, will do all that we can do to work through the process as quickly as possible. What I will say is we go to pre-consultation, and all the departments, relevant departments, any external agencies are involved. They provide all of their comments, and then the applicant, in this case, Mr. Mussel, would take that away and determine what he is prepared to do.
Okay.
And then make the application, if the zoning bylaw amendment application is something he wants to move forward with, and then obviously go out to retain consultants to undertake the necessary studies. So in terms of a completion date, but that does mean as we're working with him, we can still look at the report cycle for consents and come back with those conditions after we've had sort of that fulsome discussion. He understands what that looks like, and he's made the decision to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mussel, I'm going to ask you if you would like a deferral for you to consult with staff and get this thing moving at an expedited manner. And I'm going to recommend as the chair that the county waive any deferral fees that may be entailed. Pardon me? Anyway, so would you like a deferral? Because you've seen here, we've got 2 failed votes.
I just want to severance my house off and move on
Okay,
with my
so
life.
you're in favor of, you can request a deferral?
Yes, but it's not going to do any good because we've been 7 months now and nobody's brought
Well,
up nothing. So it'll be
give
another
us-
7
give
months.
us a chance.
I'll be dead time you get it.
Okay.
Anyway,
Councilor-
fine, defer it, whatever.
Okay.
So thank you for that. So based on the request that we're now hearing, I'm going to move the deferral based on the request from the applicant.
Right.
And then we can talk about this after if you like, but that's what we're going to do now.
Okay, can I get a seconder to that? Lisa? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that carries. Mr. Mussel, I'm going to recommend to you that maybe it would be helpful for you yourself to retain some professional planning help.
I did, except in Norfolk County. That's what
No, that's not what I mean. A professional,
Like I said, 3 different planners, and this is what you.
that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking,
We've done this for the last
okay.
7 months.
Okay, that's my suggestion. Thank you very much. Anyway, just going back, Adam and Lisa. Okay, next up is ANPL 2026123, and the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received requesting relief of 0.52 meters from the minimum permitted rear yard setback of 7.5 meters to permit a rear yard setback of 6.98 meters for an addition to a dwelling in the residential R1H zone. The subject lands are located at 982 Highway 59 between Front Road and William Lane in the geographic township of South Walsingham. The area of the subject lands is approximately 1,021.63 square meters, with approximately 21 meters of frontage on the east side of Highway 59. The subject lands are currently occupied by a single detached dwelling, detached garage, and accessory shed. The subject lands are currently subject to a holding under Bylaw 16Z/2023 regarding water capacity. In this case, the subject application proposes an addition which is permitted under this holding. A portion of the subject lands is currently zoned hazard lands. Planning staff have been in discussion with LPRCA staff regarding the hazard land zone on the subject property. LPRCA staff note that the subject lands are not subject to any natural hazards. Therefore, planning staff have begun the technical mapping exercise to reflect the current extent of the hazard lands on the property. Overall, it is the professional opinion of planning staff that this proposal is consistent with the Planning Act and meets the 4 tests of a minor variance. This proposal is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the committee? Is there an agent or applicant present? Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? No, we have a recommendation for approval. Joe? Seconded? Phil? ANPL 2026123, all in favor? That's carried. BNPL 2026150. We have a few together here. ANPL 2026151 and 152. The planner can give the report, please. Welcome back, Andrew.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll be presenting this on behalf of my colleague Kendall. I assume that we can present all 3 together for brevity. BNPL 2026150, an application has been received to sever a parcel having a frontage and width of 20.14 meters, an irregular depth and a lot area of 1,876 square meters, and to retain a lot having an area of 28.5 hectares. ANPL 2026151, an application has been received to seek relief of 11.5 hectares from the required minimum lot area of 40 hectares to permit a lot area of 28.5 hectares for a lot in the agricultural zone. And 2026-152, an application has been received to seek relief of 0.22 hectares from the required minimum lot area of 0.4 hectares to permit a lot area of 0.18 hectares and 10 meters, apologies, from the minimum required lot frontage of 30 meters to permit a lot frontage of 20 meters for a lot in the Hamlet residential zone. Before I go any further, I wanted to note that additional comments were received, I believe, yesterday and have been circulated to committee members. The subject lands are located on the north side of Highway 3, west of its intersection with Cockshut Road. The area of the subject lands is approximately 28.69 hectares, with approximately 274 meters of frontage on Highway 3. The portion of the lands proposed to be severed fronts onto Cockshut Road within the hamlet of Renton and would have an area of approximately 1,876 square meters, with the retained lands to remain at 28.5 hectares. Subject lands are currently farmed and contain no structures. The subject severance application seeks to create a new residential lot within a hamlet area on lands that are designated urban residential and zoned hamlet residential. The remainder of the lands are designated and zoned agricultural and hazard lands and will remain farmed. The undersized nature of the retained lands would be exacerbated by the proposed severance, with the proposed lot also being undersized with a reduced frontage as per the hamlet residential zoning provisions. These deficiencies are proposed to be rectified by the respective associated minor variance applications. In regards to minor variance application ANPL 2026151, the reduction in lot area is minor relative to the existing lot size and will not affect the function of the agricultural lands. In regards to the other minor variance 2026152, the proposed severed lot is of a similar size to several parcels in the hamlet area and is thus in keeping with the surrounding character. A hydrogeological study will be necessary to ensure that the lot can adequately support a septic system and has been included as a condition of the severance. A public comment was received as part of the application and primarily speaks to concerns regarding an observed drain within a portion of the subject lands. The engineering department has indicated that this drain is not part of a county system and that the property is outside of the watershed of the Woolly Drain. Additionally, LPRCA has noted that a tributary watercourse of Black Creek runs through the property but would not be affected by the proposed severance. No issues were raised in the technical comments. In summary, it is the professional opinion of staff that the severance proposal meets the Planning Act, PPS 2024, conforms with the official plan, and meets the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. The minor variance applications also meet the 4 tests of a minor variance. All 3 applications are recommended for approval. We were approached by the agent prior to the meeting regarding condition 6 of the consent, which had a typo and should require an entrance permit rather than what was the word? Dedication from development engineering. Thank you. I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of the committee? Is there an agent or? Of course. Anything to add? Nothing to add? Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? Yes, sir. Stepped up to the microphone. Button on the right and your name, please. That's the one.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Ben Hogaterp, and my wife Jeanette and we live at 1079 Cockshut Road, which is just north of this proposed lot. My concern is years ago, Van Kessel's drilled a well for us, and we had to go 135 feet down, and we hit rock, and it has about 3 to 5 gallons per minute. It's done the job for us. My concern is if a neighbor was to drill a well to use for watering their lawn or whatever it was for, if we diminished our 3 to 5 gallons per minute, we'd run into a problem. Now, before this meeting, I talked to Mr. Schuyler Sr., and he said to me, if we ran into that problem, they would drill us a new well. And that would solve my problem, my concerns, but I would want that in writing or enforceable, because when someone buys a lot and builds a house on it, I would imagine that's their problem, not theirs. But that's my main concern, Mr. Chairman, because that well's worked for us, but it's minimal. And Renton is not a good area to drill wells. It's unfortunate.
Okay. Planning staff have any comment?
Through the chair, this is the reason why there's a hydrogeological condition put onto the application for any new lot, because we need to ensure that not only septic but well provision is there, that the water is potable, but also that a new well is not going to deleteriously impact a neighboring property. So it's several stages within the hydrogeo. That's a required condition of the application. So,
and how would that be enforced? Like.
Well, if the hydrogeo is unacceptable to us or to the building department, then the severance fails. They wouldn't be able to complete that condition.
Yeah.
So there's no new lot. That's basically the gist of it. Is that the hydrogeo will show us one way or the other, is this acceptable, is this attainable, and if not, there is no new lot.
Yeah.
It fails on that condition.
A concern, not to me, is my septic system is probably 25, 30 feet away from the lot line. But when they put the new neighbor, if there is a new neighbor, drills a well, they would have to stay 80 or 100 feet away from my septic system, but that's not my problem.
I'm going to defer to the agent for a comment, please.
Yeah. Do you want me to stay up here, or?
Yeah, you get to step aside if
Yep.
you like.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Nathan Colomia, I am the agent for Skylar Farms. Simply, Andrew's correct. That is what the condition for the hydrogeo study requires, and he is correct in that if the report's not satisfactory, we can't get the severance, we can't get the lot. That's the bottom line. Andrew's correct. Thank
Okay.
you.
Now, let me ask you a question, Nathan. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name again. He's asking for something in writing. Is your client willing to do that?
Well, it's a moot point regardless, because if the hydrogeological study is satisfactory, then there are no concerns across any of the adjacent lots. So
Okay.
there wouldn't be necessary in general.
All right, thank you. Does the committee have any questions while he's up there? No? Okay. Does that satisfy your concerns for the time being?
Yeah, as long as I don't run into a problem.
We're going to get to you. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry?
As long as I don't run into a problem, because
Okay.
I don't want to spend thousands in re-drilling a well, but,
Okay.
okay, Mr. Chairman.
Just like to provide a comment. So just a little bit of my background. I work for the County of Brant. I've drilled many municipal wells, done lots of hydro-G studies. So when they drill the new well, they will have to pump that well for 3 days straight to confirm if there are any impacts to wells within a certain radius, usually about half a kilometer to a kilometer. So your well is definitely within that radius. And if any adverse effects are experienced on your well, which they'll probably, and you can request to have your well monitored during that test, right? So if there are any adverse effects, the person putting in the new well will have to rectify those impacts.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Councilor Van Passen.
More of a comment. We've had this situation come up in other parts of Norfolk County, and they found a solution to that is they put cisterns in the house, because you have a well that only does 3-4 gallons a minute, and all the kids come home, you can't suck that much out, so you pump your well into a cistern, and then you have another pump that'll give you 20 gallons a minute, and that keeps everybody happy. So there are solutions out there.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go right to the audience again. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this application? Step right up, and the microphone's already on, and just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Karen Eastman. I actually live just on the other side of the road from where the severance is hoping to be. Am I correct in understanding that if it's changing, like from what I heard over here, if you're changing the look or it's negatively impacting the neighborhood as far as like what the neighborhood atmosphere is like, or I'm sorry, I don't remember what the words were that they were using about the barn or the garage that was going to be close to the road.
I'm going to defer to the client, unless, do you have anything to add?
I would just say through the chair, I think you're looking for street scene.
Yeah.
The street scene and
Okay.
how it appears in the streetscape.
Right,
Yes.
okay. So I'm going to say that having lived there now for 7 years, I've never seen a lot that narrow in Renton. Also, I don't know that they've built a new house there in quite a long time. I feel that severing that lot and putting a house in there is going to look ridiculous. And I know several other neighbors that, well, one that couldn't be here tonight, I think probably who sent his comments in, just feel that it would negatively impact the value of our homes, having another home so close by. I know where the stake is for the property line on the opposite side of the road, which is right next to my place, which I think is the next in line lot to be severed off. It's right up on what we thought was our property because there's railroad track that goes through there, right? And so it's quite a dip down to the track and then like up to the edge. So for us, it would be like, I know I'm just talking to precedent here, like if this one gets severed and then we want to do the same thing across the road, we're looking at having a neighbor like 5 feet from the stairway that goes up to our rentals upstairs. So
Okay.
the one across the street, it won't affect us other than that I wouldn't want to look at it. Probably it's much, I moved there because of the country atmosphere.
Okay.
And like the property tax we pay there is pretty ridiculous. And then if we're going to be packed in house here, like I might as well live in town. And that's not why we moved to Renton. So
Okay.
that's just my personal opinion.
Okay. Thank you. Duly
Okay.
noted.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak to this application? No? Okay. We have a recommendation for approval on all three. Can I get a mover and a seconder on BNPL 2026-150? That's the severance. Joe, Linda? Sorry? I'm sorry, who?
Jim Toombs would like to speak.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Toombs, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, sorry. I live just across from Ben and Jeanette and just north of Karen at 1076 Cockshutt. As Ben said, I have concerns about water. In speaking with neighbors who had lived there since the mid-'80s, they had mentioned that back then there was a moratorium put on new builds in Renton due to water table issues. I reached out to someone in archives, and because at that time Renton belonged to the city of Nanticoke, I guess those records aren't digitized, so it would require me to come in person and see this. But yeah, like I think that speaks to previous water table concerns. And to that, mentioned about the drill testing. When would that take place? In spring, when there's lots of water potentially in the ground and the table would be high? Or would it be done in summer when the water table's potentially lower?
No way of predicting that, I guess. Correct, Andrew?
Right.
When they actually do the work, we have no way of knowing that.
Through the chair, no, as far as I'm aware, it can be done at any time of the year.
Okay.
But the results are still the same, whether it has an impact or not on surrounding properties' water. So if it's a low water level for everyone and the tests show that, fine. As long as it doesn't worsen the situation, then the testing can be done at any time of the year, as I understand it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Toombs, does that satisfy your concern?
Yeah, may I ask one more?
Sure.
So I know like that used to be kind of a sidetrack for rail cars back when I was a little kid. And even today at times you can smell the creosote. So I just wonder if there's any of that that's soaked into the ground, and is that a concern? You know, if someone were to build a house on that soil.
Planning staff?
As far as that would be concerned, I mean, a fair amount of that would be taken up in any regrading that's going to need to be done to to former railway lands, and will also come out partially as in the hydrogeo because creosote will show up. But yes, ultimately, it is up to whoever is going to build to ensure that the grading is safe for residential use.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Toombs?
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, and we'll move along. So I have a motion, it's moved by Joe, seconded by Linda for BNPL 2026150. Recommendation for approval, subject to conditions. All in favor? And that's carried. And then we will do minor variance ANPL 2026151, mover seconder. Lisa, Phil? All in favor? And that's carried. And ANPL 2026152, minor variance. Mover seconder, please. Phil and Councillor Van Passen. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, moving right along. BNPL 2026163, and the planner can give the report, please.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received to sever a parcel having a frontage of 46.61 meters, a width of 46.1 meter, and a depth of 45.51 meters, and having an area of 0.19 hectares. The retained parcel will have an area of approximately 22.31 hectares in the RH zone in the hamlet of Forestville. This severance, note the reduced lot size of 0.19 hectares. A zoning bylaw amendment was passed earlier by council with a special provision allowing the undersized lot. The subject lands are located at 188 Charlottesville West Quarter Line Road in the hamlet of Forestville. The subject lands are currently vacant. Surrounding land uses are mainly residential and agricultural in nature. A provincially significant wetland, PSW, adjacent area is identified on the subject lands. It is limited in area and in development grading or servicing, no development grading or servicing is proposed within the PSW adjacent lands. The proposed severance has been designed to avoid direct encroachment into these features, and the retained lands will remain zoned hazard land and agricultural. A grading and servicing concept prepared by G. Douglas Valley Limited demonstrated that the septic system and associated works can be located entirely outside the PSW adjacent area, thereby maintaining separation from the natural heritage features. The LPRCA has also confirmed that a permit is not required for the proposed works based on the current design. On this basis, the proposal maintains to avoidance of any key natural features and does not result in any negative impacts on the provincially significant wetlands. Given the above, it is the professional opinion of the planning staff that this proposal meets the Planning Act, conforms with the official plan, and meets the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Is there an agent or applicant present? Anything to add? Nothing to add, they say. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this application? No? Anyone online? No? We have a recommendation for approval. Mover, seconder, Lisa, Joe. And BNPL 2026163, all in favor? And that's carried. ANPL 2026054. The planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll be presenting on behalf of my colleague Kendall. An application has been received to seek relief of 36.6% in lot coverage to permit a total lot coverage of 51.6%. 4.8 meters in front yard setback to permit a front yard setback of 1.2 meters. 3.45 meters in rear yard setback to permit a rear yard setback of 5.55 meters. 0.38 meters in left and right interior side yard to permit in left and right interior side yard setback of 0.82 meters. One parking spot to permit one parking spot as the minimum number, and relief of section 3.10B to permit an eaves trough projection to the left side yard property line. Excuse me. The subject lands are located on the west side of Cedar Drive, just north of its intersection with Tyler Street and Turkey Point, and the geographic township of Charlottesville. The area of the subject lands is approximately 292 square meters, with approximately 12.6 meters of frontage on Cedar Drive. Subject lands are occupied by a single detached dwelling and wooden shed. The existing one-story dwelling has a lot coverage of 35.6% and approximately 77.5 square meters in building area. The dwelling is proposed to be demolished and replaced by a new two-story dwelling with an attached garage with a lot coverage of 51.6% and 120.7 square meters of building footprint and approximately 218 square meters of floor area. The subject lands are designated resort residential under the Norfolk County Official Plan. Residential dwellings that existed legally upon the adoption of the official plan have been permitted. Redevelopment or replacement of existing structures is permitted, subject to the policies of hazard land designation. The hazard land designation permits a reasonable compromise between the extent of the hazard and the continued use and future development of the area of extensive development located on hazard lands, such as in Turkey Point. The subject lands are also subject to the shoreline policies of the official plan, which generally direct development outside of hazard areas and allow for a reasonable compromise between hazards and the continued use and future development of the area. While a dwelling already exists on the subject property, the proposed reconstruction significantly increases the habitable space and building footprint on the lot. Fire Services has provided comments on the potential risks the increased building area may pose to first responders, the residents, the neighboring properties, as well as the general public as it pertains to the roadway. Based on the submitted comments and an analysis of the requested relief, the proposed development cannot be considered to be a reasonable compromise when considering the potential hazards. As such, the application does not conform to the general intent of the Norfolk County Official Plan. The lands are zoned resort residential with special provision 1414, which permits single detached dwellings as a use. The applications seek relief of almost all of the required setback provisions within the resort residential zone. The intent of these provisions is to ensure that structures are set back sufficiently from the street and neighboring properties, and that the lot retains sufficient drainage, parking, servicing, and amenity space, and that the dwelling suits the character of the surrounding neighborhood. While the front and rear yard setbacks could be considered to be in keeping with the existing dwelling and surrounding dwellings, the side yard setbacks result in parking and amenity space reductions, as well as a substantial lot coverage increase when viewed together, has the potential to create a massing in scale that may appear imposing at the street level. A parking relief has also been requested, with the only parking space provided on site to be located within the proposed attached garage, as the majority of the existing gravel driveway appears from satellite imagery to be located within the road allowance. The existing dwelling has a lot coverage of approximately 35.6%, with the proposed lot coverage of 51.6%. The proposed relief is more than half the lot area, and when viewed in conjunction with relief requests for required yard reductions, creates a massing and scale that does not appear to be in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood. Additionally, the building department has noted that the location of the existing septic system does not meet the setback requirements from the location of the proposed dwelling, and that the existing septic system is not sufficient to support the proposed new dwelling. Considering the size of the proposed dwelling, a septic system of sufficient size to support the dwelling would not be able to fit within the lot of the proposed building footprint, and while maintaining Ontario Building Code setback requirements. While a single detached dwelling is permitted on the lands, the size of the lot permits a building envelope appropriate and relative to lot size, and where private on-site services can be accommodated. Staff are of the opinion that the reliefs being requested as part of this application, when viewed together, introduce a cumulative effect that appears to be a significant departure from the intent of the Royal Resort Residential Zone provisions, and may appear imposing at the street level with its proposed size, height, and front facade setback from Cedar Street. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposed relief requests have a cumulative impact that cannot be considered minor in nature, desirable, or in keeping with the character of the area for the appropriate development of the lands, and therefore recommend refusal of the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Is there an agent or applicant present? David, anything to add? I do. Step right up. 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is David McPherson, and I'm representing the property owner, Vijay Parekh, and his wife, who are also the owners of the Turkey Point Shopping Center, which is directly across the street from this house. Much of the planner's report speaks to the proposed dwelling being imposing, too large, and out of character with the surrounding neighborhood. I suggest that this is not the case at all. The proposed dwelling is not at all imposing at the street level, nor does it create a massing of scale inconsistent with the existing streetscape. It's actually rather small so far as new builds in Turkey Point are concerned. The application was deferred from the June committee meeting as the owner wanted to reduce the square footage to provide a 1.2 meter side yard setback on the right-hand side, and to increase the interior dimension of the garage to meet the parking space requirement identified by the building department. We have moved the dwelling back from the front property line in order to have a full width deck on the owner's own property. As you can see on the cover photo behind me, the existing front porch and steps are all on the road allowance. So we've moved the building back so that the dwelling and the deck and the steps are all on private property. The existing rear deck has also been reduced in size to provide more space for a new septic system. This is not the big imposing dwelling that the planning report makes it out to be. It is, in fact, the same footprint as the existing dwelling, with the exception that there's a proposed second story and a single car attached garage on the ground floor. Size-wise, and I did submit all of the architectural plans with my application, the footprint is only 1,007 square feet plus a 290 square foot garage. Compared to cottages being built today, this is quite a modest build indeed. I chose the intersections of Reserve and Cedar and Turkey Point Road and Cedar as my neighborhood to investigate for this proposal. In that neighborhood are 49 two-story dwellings. And I'm passing around pictures of all 49 of those two-story dwellings. The first one on top is the dwelling of the former owner of the Turkey Point Shopping Center, and that dwelling is right directly across the road. All of these pictures that you see of two-story dwellings in those two street intersections are larger than what we're proposing here. As for the amenity space,
1 minute, David.
sorry?
1 minute.
Being concerned, 50% of the lot is open, landscaped area, plus there is a front deck and a rear deck. LPRCA submitted their usual comment regarding safe access, without considering that both LPRCA Board of Directors and Norfolk County Council have approved resolutions guaranteeing safe access. The building department has questioned the septic system. This building has 2 bedrooms and only 1 washroom. A new septic system design has been submitted to the building department that we believe complies with the Ontario Building Code. This system meets all required setbacks and is sized sufficiently to support the proposed dwelling. The building department also flagged the overhead hydro service wire as an issue, so I have booked a site meeting with Hydro One to find a solution to that. I have addressed all of the issues raised in the planning report, and I maintain that this application is quite minor in nature. Therefore, I respectfully ask that you approve this application, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Right on time. Questions? No? I have one. Will the eaves overhang the property lines?
The eaves will not overhang the property line. On the right-hand side, there is a 1.2 meter setback, and on the left-hand side, my application seeks relief similar to a proposal I did on Ordnance Ave to have the eave meet the property line, but not overhang it. And that includes the eave trough. The eave trough will not overhang the property line. The building department did also flag an issue about the left-hand wall. In my architectural drawings that I supplied, I provided documentation to show how that wall will be constructed to meet the limiting distance requirement.
Okay, thank you.
So I think I've covered everything.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have a question at all? Linda?
Just a comment that from the drawing, it does appear that the eave hangs over, the drawing in the report.
Can you go to the drawing in the report?
Can you
Oh, it's not
project
in here.
that drawing?
We don't have it.
It's in the report that was provided.
The eave does not overhang.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay. I'll go to the audience. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? Yes, sir. Step right up. Easy.
Good afternoon or good evening. Jerry Ropko's my name. I'm live at 229 Cedar Drive. And I'm just a concerned neighbor that backs onto this property with the additional relief of 36.6 coverage to the extension of 51.6. Their deck currently is on the back of the property, and I really see that they're extending the deck considerably back to my property. And with the additional size of the property and building, does this property have a drainage plan? Maybe you could answer.
So typically,
Yes?
It does.
It does?
So typically
Okay.
a drainage plan comes into play at the building department, or the building permit stage?
But I've already submitted that in advance.
Okay, thank you.
And does this meet the requirements?
it would, if it's approved, it would have to.
Okay, and secondly, we currently have a picture window facing Cedar Drive, viewing past their backyard. And with this, I just wonder if this would, how high is this building? I don't see any measurements on the height of this.
Should be on the drawing.
Could somebody?
I'm not sure if it's in your report that's been submitted to committee, but I did submit architectural drawings and it.
You're not seeking
Not exceed
relief.
the maximum height requirement.
And what is that?
9.1 meters.
9 point, what is that in feet, or what is that in, is that that's a two-story plus
That's a 2-story plus a roof.
plus a roof? So what's the total height of this building?
I can't tell you right off.
See, I couldn't.
It's less than the 9.1 meters.
So David, you're not asking for relief on height.
I'm not asking
So
for that.
it's within the bylaw.
Okay, and
Okay.
I just couldn't tell what height it was going, and whether, I realized that views change from neighborhood to neighborhood, but in our area, there is a couple buildings that are two-story, but not directly in front of us. So I'm just a concerned
Okay.
neighbor.
All right. Thank you. Duly noted.
To answer your question, we just looked at the plans, 29 foot 10 to the peak of the roof.
To the peak, so that's fair size. That's a fair size.
It's a 2-story.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment to answer one of his questions?
Sure.
The increase in lot coverage is only because of the attached garage.
Okay.
No,
It's not a back and forth.
Sorry?
It's not a back and forth from the audience.
I'm sorry, but
That's
that's
okay.
what that covers.
Okay.
Is the attached garage.
All right. Is there anyone else present? that
Other
wishes-
than that, it's the same footprint.
Okay, is there anyone else present that wishes to speak to this application? Yes, sir, step right up.
Hey, how are you? Good. Jason Young.
Sorry, speak up.
Jason Young. My name is
Okay.
Jason Young. I live directly to the right. So all I'm concerned about is the driveway, our driveway, and the property line. Here it says nothing about the right side, and here it says it's back to, you're asking for relief again. I talked to VJ myself, because he's my neighbor.
Yes.
And he said that it was a mistake, that they were asking for that extra, and he got it rectified. So I said, hey, we're good. And then I see that it's changed again, and they're asking for it.
Okay,
again.
this
That's
is,
all
this
I'm
is not a
asking.
conversation.
Sorry.
You have to
First
speak
time
into
for
the
me,
microphone
sorry.
so we can hear you.
Yes, sorry. Yes. So originally, even on this document here,
Okay,
states nothing about the right interior property line, but yet on this one, it states that it's direct asking for the, yes, exactly, left and right
I'll ask
interior.
the consultant to briefly comment
Just
on
want
that.
confirmation.
Okay, that's
Okay,
what we're
well-
here for.
That notice was sent out with incorrect information, and I reached out to planning to have it corrected. The mapping was also incorrect, and I don't know if that's what he has, but the initial mail out had an incorrect map on it.
Yeah,
So I made an effort to have that corrected as fast as I
Okay.
could.
okay.
I can't speak to what was done, but
Right.
I did reach out to them.
Counselor Barry. Okay, all right.
And the only reason I ask that is because it's our only parking. So if indeed it is being taken, then I will not have any parking. Our lots are so skinny, there's no available. I'll have to park on my front lawn.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, go.
That was part of the deferral, is because VJ wanted to reduce the size of the building so that we could maintain 1.2 meters to his property.
Okay. Anybody else wishes to speak to this application? No? Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
We have a recommendation for refusal, a mover, seconder, or an alternative. Don't everybody jump up at once. Counselor Van Passen.
Generally, I would just straight out say no. It's just too much. It's too close to the road. There's no parking spots because they're not going to leave the garage empty. I do get enough complaints about lack of parking in Turkey Point already. I don't want to aggravate that. But I wonder whether we could defer it and have them reduce it, or just eliminate the garage and leave a driveway there or something. Whether there's enough room that they could amend this application, but I'm not sure there even would be. I think there's just way too many things to fix. Like whether there's enough room for a septic and well, they don't really know. They got a plan that'll hopefully work. We're running our eaves troughs right up to the property lines. I'd move that we defer it.
I was just going to ask you if that was a motion to defer.
But I wonder, maybe I need to ask that, is there any solution that they can amend the current application
Well, let's
that would
ask,
count as doing an amendment
Let's
to it?
ask our fabulous planning staff for a comment. Andrew. Or,
Oh, do you want to?
Through the chair, and Andrew, feel free to add to what I'm about to say. But yeah, through the deferral process, if that is something that you're looking to do in terms of the agent and look to work with staff, that is definitely something we would be willing to do. So I'll leave it there.
okay. We can add that to the minutes, or
Well, if I
as a
move to
condition, maybe, or?
No,
how-
if I just move it as a deferral, I just want to save the applicant some money and not have to apply for a complete new one, so we'll move
Yeah.
to defer it.
Okay, seconder? Counselor Berry, you're seconding? Yes. Okay, thank you. Motions for deferral, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, where's that stamp? Okay. ANPL 2026161, and the planner can give the report, please.
Through the chair, thank you. An application has been requested relief of 3.5 meters from the minimum required exterior side yard setback of 6 meters to permit an exterior side yard setback of 2.5 meters to allow for the construction of a building in the general industrial zone. The subject lands are located at 10 Arnold Sao Drive at the intersection of Highway 59. The area of the subject lands is approximately 2,169.5 square meters with approximately 53.3 meters of frontage on the south side of Arnold Sao Drive. The subject lands are occupied by an existing building, garbage shed, and 3 shipping containers with 1 to be removed. Surrounding land uses are commercial, industrial, and residential. Staff notes that the property is under site plan control and that the owner will need to apply for site plan approval prior to the issuance of a building permit. The proposal was circulated to the Ministry of Transportation for review and comments. The owner must submit plans to the MTO for land development review. The landowner is also required to apply for and obtain building permits and land use permits from the MTO prior to the issuance of any building permit or any building construction. Given the above, it is the professional opinion of the planning staff. This proposal meets the 4 tests for the Planning Act for a minor variance and therefore is recommended for approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Is there an agent or applicant present? Applicant? Okay, an agent? Okay. Anything to add? Nothing to add. Is there anyone present in the audience or online that wishes to speak to this application? No? Recommendation for approval, Phil? Linda? ANPL 2026161, all in favor? That's carried. BNPL 2026124. Yep, and the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received to sever a parcel having a frontage of 0 meters, an irregular width, and irregular depth, and having an area of 6,818.07 square meters, and retain a parcel having an area of approximately 3,800 square meters as a result of a boundary adjustment. Lands are to be added to the existing parcel directly adjacent to the south, located at 425 Queensway West. The final lot size will be approximately 13,090.7 square meters. The subject lands are located at 421 Queensway West between Park Road and Hunt Street North in the town of Simcoe and geographic township of Wyndham. The area of the subject lands is approximately 1.06 hectares with approximately 61.88 meters of frontage on the north side of Queensway West. The subject lands are occupied by a commercial building with multiple units and a parking lot. The lands benefiting from the proposed boundary adjustment are located at 425 Queensway West and have an area of approximately 0.63 hectares. The benefiting lands are currently occupied by a commercial building. A portion of the proposed boundary adjusted lands are zoned hazard land and provincially significant wetlands and contain significant woodlands as well. However, no development or site alteration is proposed as part of this application. The subject application seeks to expand the parking area and transfer ownership by way of a boundary adjustment of the flag-shaped rear portion of the lot located at 421 Queensway West to the benefiting lands located at 425 Queensway West. Due to the existing lot configuration, the boundary adjusted area is currently located directly behind the benefiting lands and would make a logical extension of the lot. The proposal is consistent with the Planning Act, PPS 2024, conforms with the official plan, and complies to the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and given this, the proposal is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Is there an agent or applicant? Anything to add? Nothing to add. Sorry? Is there anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? And we have one, and that's, what's her name? Christine, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Christine Hill, and I'm the owner of 417 Queensway West, along with my husband Zachary. He's just sitting beside me here. We are just speaking on this matter as, of course, our property is immediately beside it. And now you just touched on it and pretty much answered our questions anyways, but our concern is for the provincially significant wetlands and woodlands that are part of that property. Given that DeMeyers and Concerts are an automotive-based business, and we of course support and respect that, our primary concern would be though the parking of leaking cars that need service, cars that are being sent out to the auction being parked on those backlot areas where those contaminants could affect the local environment, and also that any lighting that would be brought in for security purposes to that backwooded lot would perhaps be in keeping with the fact that it is immediately beside a residential home and that we would not want it lit up like an airport at all hours of the night.
Okay, I'll see if I can get planning staff to comment.
Through the chair, from my understanding, there will be no site alteration or lights added to the parking lot. It's just going to continue as it currently exists. There'll be no changes to the parking lot that I know of. I don't know if the agent has no further comments from the agent about that.
The agent indicates the same. Status quo, I guess? Okay. Christine?
Thank you for answering my question. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Linda?
Question for the agent. You might as well
We're
come
gonna
out.
get
'cause
you up there one way or the other.
Would this property be under site plan control? So if there were changes made, it would be required to be approved under site plan control?
Through the chair, a portion of the property is under site plan control, but it's my understanding that the hazard land area is not. But I can just maybe look to planning staff to confirm that.
Through the chair, it looks like the entire property is under site plan control, so if anything were to change on the property, they would have to go through site plan approval, whether that be through a site plan waiver or a formal site plan application.
Okay.
Through the chair, I can also add that no structures are permitted within the hazard land, and the applicant will continue to use it for parking, as Olivia mentioned.
Okay. Christine, does that satisfy your concerns?
It does. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak to this application? No? Okay. Thanks, Kayla. We have a recommendation for approval. Lisa? And Phil? BNPL 2026124, all in favor? And that's carried. Oh, we're getting down there. ANPL 2026170. And the planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received to seek relief of 16.4 hectares from the required lot area of 40 hectares to permit a total lot area of 23.62 hectares within the ag zone as a condition of a previous boundary adjustment, BNPL 2024 242 and Ontario Land Tribunal file number OLT 24001058. The subject lands are located at the corner of Highway 3 and Middleton Church Road to the east of Cortland, in the geographic township of Middleton. It is both zoned and designated agricultural. The area of the subject lands is approximately 23.6 hectares, with approximately 197 meters of frontage on the north side of Highway 3. The subject lands are occupied by an existing single detached dwelling, accessory detached garage, and 2 agricultural buildings. The application seeks relief from the minimum 40 hectare lot requirement to permit a minimum lot area of 23.62 hectares in the ag zone to satisfy a condition of consent file BNPL 2024-242. The lot was already undersized prior to the minor boundary adjustment approved by committee and the Ontario Land Tribunal. Given the minor nature of the boundary adjustment of approximately 0.07 acres, the retained lot, while smaller, remains largely unchanged in lot area. Given this was a legal non-complying lot prior to the boundary adjustment, it is considered that this minor reduction in lot size can be considered appropriate and in keeping with the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. It should be noted that the applicant's appeal to the OL2 is based on the Ministry of Transportation imposed conditions relating to an existing driveway access and an existing shed located on the adjacent property. The tribunal opined that the MTO conditions were unreasonable and were stricken from the provisional consent approval granted by the Committee of Adjustment on September 18th, 2024. The OLT decision has no implications on the current minor variance application beyond confirming that a minor variance for deficient lot size of the retained lands remained a condition of the consent approval. Given the above, it is the professional opinion of planning staff that this proposal meets the 4 tests of a minor variance. This proposal is recommended for approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Is there an agent or applicant present? Yes? Anything to add? No?
Sorry, Paula Murray, I am legal counsel for the retained landowner. And just to add that this only arose as a result of a minor boundary adjustment that was required to bring the lands all into compliance due to a slight encroachment of the neighboring garage. And we agree with everything that the planner has said in terms of their position. position on this matter.
Okay, thank you. And that's your representative? Okay, very good. Is there anyone else online or present that wishes to speak to this application? Okay, we have a recommendation for approval. Joel and Linda. ANPL 2026-170, all in favor? That's carried. ANPL 2026-131, planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, an application has been received to seek relief of 2 meters from the permitted maximum accessory building height of 6 meters to permit a total height of 8 meters and 314 square meters from the permitted maximum accessory building usable floor area of 100 square meters to permit a total usable floor area of 414 square meters in the Hamlet residential zone for a newly constructed existing detached garage outbuilding. The subject lands are located to the west of Old Highway 24 within the Hamlet OP designation of Wilsonville. The area of the subject lands is approximately 0.9 hectares in area, with approximately 66 meters of frontage on the north side of Concession 3000. The subject lands are occupied by an existing single detached family dwelling and an existing garage outbuilding, which is the subject of this application. An order to comply has been placed on the subject property as it relates to the previously constructed detached garage that was built without benefit of a building permit. In order to bring the property into compliance, the applicant is seeking relief from the maximum permitted height and usable floor area in the zoning bylaw for the previously constructed detached garage. The application site is more than double the The application site is more than double the required lot area for a dwelling in the Hamlet residential zone of 0.4 hectares. The proposed usable floor area of the garage outbuilding would be 314 square meters above the 100 meters allowed. Whilst this is a significant increase in usable floor area, it accounts for less than 5% of the lot coverage. The zoning bylaw would allow up to 10% lot coverage or 100 square meters, whichever is the lesser of the two. Given the lot size and the limited impact the requested increase in maximum usable floor area would have on the subject lands and neighboring properties, it is the opinion of staff that the requested increase in usable floor area for the detached garage can be considered minor in this instance. Additionally, the requested increase in height from the maximum permitted 6 meters to a maximum permitted 8 meters is considered minor. The garage outbuilding is set well back behind the rear lot line of the adjacent dwelling and abuts an agricultural field. The proposed height increase would not result in any adverse impacts to the residential amenity of surrounding lands, and given the low slope of the roof, it appears to be as low as possible for the structure given its footprint. Given the above, it is professional opinion of planning staff that this proposal meets the 4 tests of a minor variance and is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Is there an agent or applicant present? And do you have anything to add? Okay, thank you. Nothing to add. Is there anyone present online that wishes to speak to this application? Seeing none, we have a recommendation for approval. Joe and Lisa. Sorry, Councillor Van Passen, go ahead.
I have a question for staff on
Okay.
this one. When I look at that building, it sure looks like either it's going to have an accessory dwelling unit in it or it potentially could have. And I'm not sure that it would meet the criteria. I don't think the far corner of the building would be within the 40 meters required. And I wonder if the intent is to have an accessory dwelling, which I got no problem with, shouldn't we also clean up those other conditions, like the floor area of an accessory has to be, 75 square meters in there. It has to be totally within 40 meters of the primary. Are any of those conditions missing? Because again, I'd rather get it all cleaned up at once rather than have them come back later when they get caught again doing something else. And I also noticed that there is driveways that you're not allowed to have driveways. And maybe they got to take that one driveway out because they probably didn't get a permit for that. They didn't get a permit to build this building. I doubt they got a permit to build the driveway. confirming that their conditions are satisfied and they've removed that other driveway. So, does that make sense?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew,
Through the chair,
I knew there was a question.
basically, we have to look at things as they're presented and submitted to us. There is no second story to that building. It is just a single-story building. Yes, I myself, when I first saw it, thought, ooh, this has an ARDU written all over it. However, they've not applied for that, so we couldn't condition it to require them to meet conditions of something they've not applied for. If in the future they decide that they want to put an ARDU into that building, then they'll have to come back for another minor variance. And that's about all that they can do. We can't foreguess and try and condition away every possibility that could happen in the future. In terms of the road or the second driveway, I don't know. I didn't actually notice whether or not it was a new driveway or an existing vehicle access that was just upgraded. If it's existing, then there would have been no need for an entrance permit. If it's new, then they probably would have needed an entrance permit. And that's something that will be dealt with when they get back to permits after getting their minor variance.
Well, I don't think any of that existed 5 years ago when you look at the aerial photography, but that is actually my sort of point, that if there, and maybe the agent should look and ask or answer this, if they think they may want an accessory dwelling unit, because when I look at, like even the picture you show here, a beautiful front door with a roof over it, windows on the second floor, and I just amending the application, covering it down, that would save them having to come back later and apply all over again and pay the money twice. So maybe the agent, is there any intent of?
That was brought up and the intent was no.
So I think you should come up to the microphone and get this on the record.
We put these conditions in all the time, especially on boathouses in Turkey Point, when they have a second floor for storage,
Yeah.
and they have to make sure it's not built in such a way that possibly it becomes a bunkie later.
And she's made her way to the microphone. Let's hear her response.
So there was prior discussion with the owner on, is there any future intent? Because we might as well loop it all in case you want to do that later. I was told no.
Okay.
So I said, okay, here's my number. Call me back if you
need
do it
me.
later.
Okay, thank you.
This would be the same owners who built a 414 square meter building without a building permit.
Okay, well,
They
we're
didn't know that
not
either.
going to surmise that. Anyway, anything else? So we have a motion on the floor, moved by Joe, seconded by Lisa. All in favor? And opposed? 2 opposed. Still carried. Okay. Last, but certainly not least, BNPL 2026090. The planner can give the report, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll be presenting this on behalf of my colleague Kendall. An application has been received to sever a parcel having no frontage, an irregular width and depth, and an area of 2,300 square meters, and to retain a parcel having an area of 74.6 hectares as a boundary adjustment in the Hamlet residential zone. The lands will be added to the lot immediately adjacent to the east, having the address of 261 Talbot Street and a final lot size of 5,746 square meters. The subject lands are located on the north side of Talbot Street, north of its intersection with Main Street of Cortland, within Cortland itself. The area of the subject lands is approximately 2,300 square meters, with approximately 31 meters of frontage onto Talbot Street. The lands proposed to be added to the subject property are approximately 3,400 square meters with no frontage. The subject lands are occupied by a single detached dwelling and 3 accessory structures. The giving lands are farmed and occupied by 2 single detached dwellings and several farm buildings, none of which are located on the lands to be severed. The property seeks to sever a portion of lands within the urban area of Cortland as a boundary adjustment with the lands being used for residential purposes, which is permitted within settlement areas. The lands are designated urban residential, hazard lands, and agricultural, with the lands to be severed being wholly designated as urban residential and are intended to be added to the adjacent property. The giving property and the proposed lands to be severed for the boundary adjustment are, as I say, zoned hamlet residential, which permits single detached dwellings as a use. The severed lands would be added to an existing residential lot to increase the amenity space of the lot. The lands are not farmed, and thus the removal of these lands would not negatively affect farming operations. It is the professional opinion of planning staff the proposal meets the Planning Act, the PPS, conforms with the official plan, and meets the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and this proposal is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Is there an agent or applicant online? There was.
Yes, there is.
Anything to add, sir?
No, I'm just here to see it.
Okay. What if we have questions? Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there anyone present or on the line that wishes to speak to this application? Being none, recommendation for approval, mover, seconder, Chris and Joe.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's a good move. It's separated from the rest of the farm by a municipal drain anyway, so we're not really losing anything, right?
BNPL 2026090, all in favor? That's carried. Motion to adjourn. Linda, Phil, 7:12. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month.